Where do you think is the safest place? A classroom in broad daylight, a quiet, empty bathroom, or the familiar school hallway you walk through every single day? In today's video, you'll hear 3 true stories where safety was just an illusion and fear had a face, lurking just beyond the door. These aren't ghost stories. These are real experiences. And the people who lived through them are still alive to tell you what happened. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and get ready to step into a nightmare. Story 1. The Man Behind the Door. I'm an 8th grade math teacher at a middle school. People often think teaching is a safe job, but no one tells you that sometimes the most dangerous thing is standing just outside the door. I was only 26 at the time, still young, far from seasoned. But what happened that day is something I'll never forget. That afternoon, I was in the middle of teaching when the emergency lockdown alarm suddenly blared. This wasn't a drill, eh? The sound was different, short, urgent, almost desperate. I immediately locked the classroom door and pulled down the blinds over the window, the part that could expose the students if someone looked in. Lights off. I told the whole class to move to the farthest corner of the room, the one completely hidden from the door's line of sight. They followed without protest, but I could see the fear in their eyes. I tried calling the front office to ask what was going on. No one picked up. After 4 rings, I put the phone down. Complete silence. Then a knock at the door. Not a soft knock. It was loud, frantic, desperate. A man's voice called out, raspy and breathless. "Open the door. Please, I'm a student. My name is Cody. There's someone with a gun in the hallway." I froze. Cody. There wasn't a student by that name in my class. And that voice, there was no way that belonged to an 8th grader. It was too deep, the voice of someone well into their 20s. I slowly approached the door and gently peeked through the blind. Through the frosted glass, I could only make out a tall figure standing completely still right up against the frame. "I see you. Miss, my name. Don't pretend. I know you can hear me." My entire body went cold. I hadn't said my name that day, and none of my students ever addressed me like that. He started jiggling the doorknob, then pulled out something metallic, maybe a card, and began trying to jimmy the lock. My hand trembled as I held the bolt in place. The students behind me began whispering in panic. A few were on the verge of tears. I motioned for silence, doing my best to stay calm, but truthfully, my heart felt like it was about to explode. He banged a few more times. Then, nothing. No footsteps walking away. No breathing. Just a suffocating silence pressing down on the entire room. We sat in darkness for over 30 minutes. Every minute felt like an eternity. Finally, the school PA crackled to life. "Police have completed their sweep. The school is secure." But I didn't feel relieved. I just felt empty. Later, the school gave us the full report. A young man, long hair, armed with what may or may not have been a real weapon, had entered the building through the main lobby. Surveillance caught him briefly before he disappeared through the rear exit of the school. He was apprehended 2 hours later near a residential neighborhood. He no longer had the gun, but inside his backpack, police found a hand-drawn map of the school, handwritten notes about classrooms near the lobby, and a student list with red marks next to certain names. My classroom was the first one closest to the main entrance. I kept thinking I should have been calmer, that I shouldn't have responded, shouldn't have spoken to him through the door. But in a moment like that, who really knows what the right thing is? Maybe, if I had opened that door, I wouldn't be here to tell this story. Story 2. The Door Watcher. There are places on a college campus that almost no one ever goes. And sometimes it's that silence, that hides the most terrifying things. I had a morning schedule with nearly an hour gap between two classes. Instead of using the main restroom, which was always crowded, I preferred stopping by the student lounge at the far end of campus. It was usually empty, and there was a women's restroom tucked into a quiet, curved hallway. I entered the building and gave a slight nod to a man sitting at the front desk near the entrance. He wore a gray hoodie, jeans, old boots, and kept his head down, staring at his phone. As I walked past, he looked up, smiled faintly, and said, "Good morning." I replied without thinking much, then walked straight into the women's restroom further down the hall. I had just sat down when, "Is anyone in there?" A man's voice, low, calm, echoing from the restroom's main door. I froze. This was the women's restroom. I didn't say a word. I didn't even breathe. The door shut again, but soft footsteps crept slowly toward the stall I was in. Then an eye appeared through the stall crack, cold, unblinking, staring right at me. "I see you," he whispered. "No need to hide. I'm here to help you." I stammered. "Someone's in here. Go away." He didn't leave. Instead, he said there was a lockdown, that a student with a gun had been spotted near this building and I needed to stay inside the restroom. He held up an alert on his phone, but the school logo was misaligned. The font looked wrong and there was no verification link. I stepped out of the stall. He had dragged a trash bin in front of the door, blocking us both inside. I faced him, the same man from the front desk, but now his eyes were locked on me. His stare was brazen, unsettling. I asked, "What's your name, Eli?" He answered, eyes fixed on me. Something was off. Way off. There was no lockdown alert on my phone. None of my friends on campus had received anything either. And his outfit, it looked more like a maintenance worker than a receptionist. I pulled out my phone pretending to text, but I was actually messaging several friends for help. No one knew anything about a lockdown. I slowly backed toward the sinks. He stepped closer, then whispered, "I heard something. We should hide inside the stall. You go in first." He reached toward me. That was it. I screamed as loud as I could until my throat burned. The scream startled him. He looked around, panicked, then shoved the trash bin aside and bolted out of the restroom. I burst out seconds later, running toward the nearest gate, hands trembling as I dialed my mom. Police arrived, reviewed security footage. They confirmed there was no one named Eli working there. He had entered through a side entrance, had no staff badge, and his face was mostly obscured by his hood. I never heard anything more about him. But every time I think back, I wonder how long he had been waiting for me, and what would have happened if I hadn't screamed. Story 3. The Man in Black. It was a beautiful sunny Friday afternoon. Senior year, final period. Me and two friends, Ryan and Scott, had a free 9th period, so we planned to head to the beach early. We were waiting for Tyler, who was still in gym class, to sneak out after roll call. We stood in the hallway by the gym building, the quietest area of the school, laughing and messing around in the sunlight streaming through the windows. Then a man came through the emergency exit. He was dressed in a black jacket, black sweatpants, hood pulled low, and a backpack slung over his shoulder. The weirdest part. It was nearly 90 degrees that day. He walked past us silently, eyes scanning each of us like he was memorizing our faces. Ryan snapped, "What are you looking at, man?" The guy froze, spun around. "You got a problem." The air went dead still. Scott tugged Ryan back. The man stared at us a moment longer, then turned and walked away. We didn't know what to do, until my phone buzzed. Tyler had messaged, "Where are you guys? School just went on lockdown. I'm hiding in the locker room." We hadn't heard any alarms. Then a loud crack rang out from the main hallway, followed by screams, then another gunshot. We knew instantly it was gunfire. He, the man in black, turned around and charged straight at us, shouting something I couldn't make out. We ran, full speed, through 2 sets of doors and straight into the woods behind the school. I glanced back. He was still chasing us, yelling, "I'm gonna kill you. You're all dead." We dove behind thick trees, gasping. He stopped at the edge of the woods, scanning the trees, then left. Only then did we dare run to the parking lot. Later, everything exploded on social media. A new teacher had been shot twice, in critical condition. No one knew who the guy was. No student recognized him. The only detail police released was that he had been caught on camera peeing in someone's backyard just before entering the school. I don't know what made him shoot that teacher, or what he wanted with us. But I know one thing: I looked into the eyes of death, and he knows my face. These were 3 terrifying stories that the people involved will never forget. Some were lucky to survive. Some are still haunted by the stare of a stranger. But what about you? What would you do if a stranger knocked on your classroom door, peeked through the stall in a restroom, or chased you through the woods behind your school? Thank you for watching until the end. If you've ever experienced something strange, disturbing, or downright terrifying, leave a comment or send your story to the channel. Who knows? The next story we share could be yours. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss the next nightmare.